Hey, look at that. I remember to hit record this time. That didn't happen last time at all. Sorry that the stream started late. One of the problems of being a one NB show, as in non-binary, is if there's a tech problem, I'm the only person around to fix it, and it took a while to fix. So apologies for that. And because it took a while to fix, I wasn't able to get everything else sorted on time. So that's that. What else to say before going into the usual spiel? Uh, I'm in the dubiously great position of qualifying for a vaccine here in the UK. And while I have had no actual side effects from the vaccine beyond just a sore arm yesterday, clearly my immune system has still been working over time, so I'm a bit tired. So I might be a bit more scatterbrained or absent-minded than usual. I apologise. I'll try to keep myself focused, but that's where we're at. So standard things really. I'm Ryan, Comrade Bubbles, if you prefer. No, I am not a representative of OnyxPath. I do not work for them. This is not like official content. This is community content. I'm just a fan of the platform, and I'm incredibly grateful as ever to OnyxPath for giving me this platform. Eventually, this will end up on the Sluritian Vault community content site. I am disabled. I might twitch. I might stutter. I might slur my speech because of it. But there we go. And I do struggle with multiple trains of thought. I'll try to finish one before going on to the next. But I will acknowledge points when I see them. As you can see here, please do just feel free to ask questions. This is a community-focused show. The content writing is just something to do while talking to chat. And hopefully provide some insight into potential ways in which you can write your own community content. This time around specifically for the Scarred Lands game line, which is let's get the acronyms out of the way first, shall we? A game line that uses the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition OGL, Open Gaming License, that allows you to use the SRD, the System Reference Document, to power your own kind of role-playing games. So Wizards did all the hard work by playtesting the system, 5th edition, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and they've provided a stripped-down version of it for community use that you can sell, and as long as you acknowledge the OGL, as long as you include that in the text, you should be all gravy. Or golden, if you prefer. Okay, so before I get onto the usual thing, the content itself, as ever, if you are curious about project updates, meeting notes, etc., the Monday meeting notes are the place to go. Some great, as usual, there's just some sweet art. There's a sweet mock-up of the current, not Kickstarter, but Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign for the Victorian era book for the 20th anniversary of Mage the Ascension. Pretty sure it's Ascension. I always get the Mage games mixed up. It looks great. One of the big differences between Kickstarter and Indiegogo, if you are interested, Indiegogo take the money when you pledge, Kickstarter take it when the campaign finishes. So if you are concerned about money stuff, be aware of that. There are other differences. The Monday meeting notes from this week and 2 weeks ago go into it. They're just experimenting with Indiegogo as an alternative platform, but backer kit will still be used if you want to get that late pledge in. Also mentioned, there's a new Werewolf 20th anniversary book, Werewolf the Apocalypse, that is, the Apocalyptic Record, one source book with five overarching stories, defined by different phases of the moon / werewolf auspices. What else? GM's Day sale starts on Wednesday on DriveThruRPG, so there'll be discounts on most OnyxPath titles with a breakdown of what percentage goes where and why on the Monday meeting notes. I've mentioned the Indiegogo, so I will drop the link. I do not need to. Nightbot has dropped the link for me. Thank you, Nightbot. The penultimate episode of Tales of the Aeon Society is released on Wednesday. That's the 5th one. There are only 6. That's the audio adventure that is promoting the next Trinity Continuum book, Aeon, would you believe? Which I think the Monday meeting notes implies is later this month, but I don't know if it's supposed to. And then as usual, kind of links to actual plays and interviews and podcasts. The where is it? Pick of the week being or having already happened, actually. Hunter the Vigil Stuffed. on Monday. So if you missed it this week, but check in next week. It is apparently a Hunter actual play of exceptional quality, according to Matthew Dawkins, and we'd like to think that he knows what he's talking about. Interviews, actual plays, for Scotland specifically of interest and of note and of exciting consequence. The compiled Vigil Watch is being released on Wednesday, the advanced PDF. So this was, if you remember, the Youngman's Guide to Gelthbad. That was running kind of, I think, bi-monthly with Vigil Watch, which was just exploring other places. And that's being released on Wednesday. Is that sale on only the Fisher Drive-Thru content or some of the fan-made Storytellers Vault content as well? I think it's only on its path, because it's the notes say most of our PDF catalog will be on sale. If it's 61 days to 2 years old, it's 10% off. If it's over 2 years old, it's 40% off. But that doesn't obviously preclude the fact that there will be a sale on Storytellers Vault and other platforms. I honestly wouldn't know. Creators, well, I've never received an email saying, "Hey, we're going to put your content on sale. Is that fine?" So I can't say either way. I'm sorry. And then first draft project for Vigil Watch, the Kelder Mountains, on also for Scotland stuff. Where is it? Yes, Vigil Watch is an exploration of 6 different locations across Gelthbad, including stuff for the Ironbread, never call them Sutak, as well as Leone, the Central Manticore Confederacy, the terrifying Deadlands of the Festering Fields, an exploration of the Library of Lokill, and much more! Exclamation mark. But yeah, so what else is new? As I mentioned, Vigil Watch, Kelder Mountains, a couple of tasty bits. Those are the small releases that have been mentioned occasionally. That's really it. Anyone who's interested in They Came From Beneath the Sea, the jump starts in editing. So that's cool. I think that's really it. That's kind of exciting. Oh, it's also Women's History Month, National Women's History Month this month, so please do support that if you can by spreading the word about it more than anything. Right, so I'm going to have a sip of my water because my lemon honey and ginger infusion is still too hot. Good intro, usually miss it. I've only just noticed that. Same intro every week. You've now experienced the intro. You never have to experience it again. I feel so sorry for the YouTube audience who never watch this, because I can see how many views these videos get, and it's nil. So this season of the show is specifically, as I mentioned, Scardlands, Frostlands, and Fenrilic stuff. People of the Snow will be a supplement featuring, right now anyway, 2 player races, the Geist and the Ursid, that we'll be tackling those last, because I just feel like tackling those last. I think this will be changed to Ancestry as well. 1 subclass for each of the core classes. Those of you who are familiar with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, alas, the Artificer, however you pronounce the word, is not included in the SRD, so we cannot make content for it. As well as you can see down here, 1 spell. I might think of a couple of other spells to go through, but last time started the Ranger Scarai Hunter. Now, usually I would finish. I finished these on stream. Last time I streamed 2 weeks ago, I was very tired and I couldn't really focus properly, so I was really struggling with how to word features and stuff. So it took longer than I intended it to do, and I didn't actually get to finish the subclass. I took the time yesterday to finish it, and I'm glad I did, because I kind of went backwards and forwards on the wording a couple of times on the Trained Mind and Perfected Mind features. But just to recap real quick before we go on to the Rogue, Scarai are the kind of like scorpion person hybrid slavers of Fenrilic. They live under they live under the ice in like tunnels and stuff, and they're very dangerous, and they're all scions. Or they have psionic potential, anyway. So thought, a ranger who hunts them develops their own low-level psionic abilities and can kind of scavenge body parts. So did some like scavenging stuff, did all that on stream, that was fine. And then got to Trained Mind and Perfected Mind, and all I had was notes to go by. So, Trained Mind, when you reach 11th level, your self-discipline reaches new heights as you develop a telepathic shield. You gain proficiency in wisdom saving throws. Additionally, you may use this trait to cast Aegis without requiring spell components a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier. You regain all expended uses at the end of a long rest. So, a quick note on why I did that specifically. There are three... I'm going to say reductive explanation. There are three mental abilities in D&D. I mean, it's not really reductive. It is sort of accurate, but anyway. Intelligence being learned rational knowledge, and if you're familiar with other Onyx Path games, it's like the power stat. Wisdom being the intuition and kind of like natural defenses, mental defenses, being finesse stat. And... well, wisdom's more than resistance, I guess. And then charisma, the force of personality, which is sort of the finesse stat. They don't really mesh 100%, but you get. Hopefully, you get an idea of what I'm trying to say. Wisdom is as I say, is the natural reactions of the mind and natural defenses and intuition and stuff. So that felt the best way. It's also the one that's most commonly used for like fear and charm effects and other mind controlling things. So I just kept that going. And then the trait Aegis without requiring spell components. Aegis does not require a material component, but it does require a verbal and a somatic component. Did not fit in my brain with the idea of a low-level telepath. So I figured why not just remove the spell component restriction entirely and... sorry, I just need to moisturize my hands. And kind of double down on the Scion aspect of things. Psion, not Scion. Scion is a different game. Wisdom modifier is because rangers use wisdom for their spellcasting stuff, so should have a reasonably high wisdom modifier. And tied it to a long rest just so they can't spam Aegis. There is some decision making to be like, hey, when do I want to increase my AC, or I think it's gain advantage on saving throws against magical effects, that kind of thing. Because if you did it every short rest, that's quite a lot. But if you do every long rest, you kind of limited to use like 1 or 2 a combat if you're doing a long day. So that's why I decided to go with that. And then Perfected Mind. Upon reaching 15th level, you can push your telepathic shield into the minds of others as a weapon. As an action, you may force a creature you can see within 20 feet to attempt an intelligence saving throw. They take 2d8 psychic damage and are stunned until the start of your next turn on a failure, or they take half as much damage and their AC is lowered by 2 until the start of your next turn on a success. You may use your bonus action each turn to keep this class feature active for up to a minute. If you do, this feature requires concentration, and an affected creature may attempt the saving throw at the end of each of their turns for the duration, until they have succeeded at a number of saving throws equal to half your proficiency bonus, rounding down, minimum of 2, at which point they become immune to the effects of this feature for 24 hours. You may use this feature a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, again, all expended uses at the end of the long rest. So I'll start at the bottom, same caveat as to why I picked long rest and wisdom modifier. And then going up to the top, I decided on intelligence for this because it's more of an active effect that a creature would have to defend against rather than just relying on instinct. 2d8 psychic damage and stun until start of next turn wording. Took me about 10 minutes to settle upon, as did how you keep the class feature active. If it was until the end of their turn, then there's too much time between the effect ending and your turn kind of renewing it. And if it's until the end of your next turn, it gives them slightly longer than a minute. It gives the effect slightly longer than a minute of duration. So that's why that's worded that way. I'm still not 100% with the wording because the intention is that every time they make the intelligence saving throw, they still take the damage, or they take the stun / AC penalty. I've seen the question. I will get to it momentarily. So the intention is that they kind of keep flipping between the two. If they succeed or fail, if they keep failing and whatnot, the effect continues. This does mean that it's going to be like guaranteed damage, hence why it's such a low damage instance. But the stun and the lowered AC should kind of make up for that. Most things last for either instantaneous, a minute, or longer. There's very few. In fact, I can't think of any 30-second effects. So that's why that's a minute duration. Concentration is the thing that spellcasters have. Some spells require concentration if you are concentrating on a spell, or in this case, a feature. Whenever you take damage, you must make a concentration check, which is a Constitution saving throw. Saving throw, I think. With a DC of 10 or half the damage taken, whichever's higher. If you fail it, you lose concentration, the effect ends. I specifically stated rounding down and a minimum of 2, because at this level, I believe your proficiency bonus is 5. It's either 4 or 5, which is obviously 2 anyway. I didn't want it as a minimum of 1, purely because... So this text, where things become immune to the effects of a feature, is most often found on other creatures, NPCs, I should say, and other creatures from like the Creature Collection or the SRD Monster Manual section. Mostly because you only encounter them like once, and that's done. And they're not designed to kind of stick around. But if you're... And they can also only use the... They kind of... A lot of the time, it's either a recharge or like 1/2/3 a day. It's specifically a minimum of 2 to get some length out of the ability, out of the feature, sorry, especially because it does require a bonus action to maintain, rather than it just kind of lasting for a minute. That was purely just a flexibility thing, I felt like, and also Rangers don't have any bonus actions. But some Ranger spells are bonus actions, so it gives you the decision of do you want to cast the spell or do you want to keep the Mind Assault active. But because you as a character are sticking around longer than 24 hours, having something immune to the effects of the feature like instantly, is like, if they succeed, just felt like it cheapened the investment of like the level investment for me. So I hope the minimum of 2 works out. That it'll only increase to 3 anyway at higher levels, and higher levels you'll be fighting enemies that can auto succeed if they wish. So there we go. I hope that explanation was clear enough for why I added that there. Does immunity from the feature provide an immunity from all rangers, or just the ranger who employed the feature? As written, I believe it's immunity to the effects of like that particular feature. I think it's one of those things that I don't think is ever really clarified. But as written, my instinct would be like they're immune to the effects of that feature. They've figured out, however temporarily, how to defend against that kind of mental assault. So I hope that kind of explained the ranger subclass. Now, standard thing. Ignore these class feature names. The placeholders from when I did this for my Patreon. Rogue tracker. When you want something found but not necessarily killed, these are the people you turn to. Usually of a more lawful mindset than southern rogues. Bearing in mind Fenrilik is the northern continent, so everything is southern. Trackers know that the community they live in is the only one they can buy food from or sell their wares to. Instead of letting their skills and abilities go to waste, many rogues on Fenrilik offer their services to travellers or inexperienced hunters and make a living out on the snow. Distraction and unexpected. So rogues usually have some way of... some alternative way of like using sneak attack or getting sneak attack or something like that. I know what I want to do here for the 3rd level feature. It's fine. It's exactly what you can probably imagine it's going to be. It's not very innovative, but it's cool anyway. I just need to think of it a sweet title. I also try to stay away from the rogue that I did for my Patreon, which was a bounty hunter. So there we go. Anyway, I just need to check the example subclasses I've got to see if it's like 1 or 2. I think it's typically only 1 feature at 3rd level for a rogue. Usually. Straight to the Mastermind, which has 3. I like this. So not the Mastermind, the Inquisitive. The Mastermind has 3, Inquisitive has 2. Okay, it looks like 2. It looks like 2 for the rogue. That makes sense as like a skill-based class. Yeah, so 2 for the rogue. Okay, so the first one, favorite terrain. It's going to be like a rogue ranger hybrid, sort of. That doesn't make sense in my head. I knew this would happen. Anyway. I'm just going to call it target marked. That's terrible. I guess just locate quarry for now. So, fortunately, all of the writing is done for me for favorite terrain. I just have to copy that over from the SRD. And that is exactly what it sounds like. Just give the rogue hunter's mark. There will be restrictions, don't worry, I've thought about that already. And some extra way of dealing sneak attack. I'm just going to get rid of these before I confuse myself even further. Follow the scent. Ooh, I like it. Where is my exemplar? Or where are my exemplars, I should say. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking maybe... Where did that fighter go? Might do the same thing as I did here. No, let's do something new. I do still want to do something with mobility. But not just call it superior mobility, because that's already taken for the scout archetype in Xanathars. Let's go with... I think I've used unhindered movement, right? Apparently not. Cool. There we go. And I'm just going to put ignore difficult terrain. And then hammer out the specifics of what that actually works out as without being completely busted afterwards. Because you've got the tracking bit, you've got the actual being able to follow the tracks thing. I think I maybe have something to do with disguising your own tracks, maybe. What are the other 13th level features like? More kind of combat oriented. Okay, so sticking with that kind of trend. Whoop, so daisy. share weakness is the wrong word. Communicate weakness. Share hunter's mark. Benefits, I guess. I know what I mean by that. I'll explain it when I get there. And the 17th level. Oh, right. That's more of a passive thing, right? Yeah. Oh, I also wanted to give bonus proficiencies. There we go. And just for my own that's not what I wanted to do. For my own sake, alphabetize the class features. There we go. Anyway, so we've got the tracking bit, we've got the being able to follow the tracks, we've got being able to show other people the tracks and things like that. What else would a tracker need? Because there are magic items that you can get relatively easily that kind of obscure your tracks, so that's less important. Fix that while I'm thinking. Sometimes I find if I'm doing something else while I'm thinking, it kind of helps, but it didn't. Don't worry about it. It's fine. The movement thing seems kind of redundant at this level. Ability to discern desired tracks from a mess of tracks. Well, that's more what the survival skill is for, which the bonus proficiency is going to give you survival. And then if you kind of want to double down on that, that's where expertise comes in as a 6th level rogue feature, I want to say. I went too far in the SRD. I should have just Control F'd my way through it. Yeah, expertise at 1st level and expertise at 6th level. Also something a ranger wouldn't have since it'd be more intelligence based. Yeah. Could be like a secondary favored terrain, maybe. Effectively an ability to process larger amounts of data for nuance. Yeah. The trouble is, by the time you get to 17th level, like, there's not much... Like, it's kind of established at this point that high-level D&D class features are relatively... They're either really good or incredibly generic and vague. At least in my opinion. Obviously, your mileage may vary. And I'd like to have it in the useful category. It's just... Oh, that also should say rogue. Just the... I mean, as I said, ranger in the PDF I released. Whoops. I don't want to tie it into the Hunter's Mark ability to follow the scent, because that's just already done, and I can include improvements in the text anyway. I mean, there's like a second level barbarian feature I could put there that would make sense, and that if you're in your favorite terrain, well, just normally you can't be surprised and you have advantage on dexterity saving throws. Good morning, Plastic Age plays. I mean, I kind of like heightened awareness, danger sense as an option here, but I feel like it's a bit late in the game for it. But equally, it kind of makes sense. Oh, I finally read Dead Man's Rust, and you were correct. There is a perfect place for a Holy Beacon's answer towards the end of the campaign. I mean, I didn't think you'd be lying, but it's a great place for it. I'm just going to put Danger Sense here. I know what I mean. I might add some extra stuff to it, but it's functionally going to be the same thing. What about precog ability to test movements before committing to them? It would help with ambushes and traps too. Something like that I might put in the Wilderness Origin Sorcerer, because of their actual like magical connection to the country, to the land. And also give the Sorcerer options other than just blast everything. Also, side note, I really loved Dead Man's Rust. I like the fact there's no big bad end person. It's just different to. There's no big bad end person and there's no MacGuffin. Also, I did ambushes. Going back to the ambush thing for a moment. I mean, obviously it's not for Scarred Lands, but there is a already excellent rogue subclass that has stuff for ambushes. And I'm trying to steer away from that to be like, hey, this is a way you can approach the similar idea, but in a different way. Do I already have a bonus proficiency text I can copy? Because that would be... Wait, I do. You gain proficiency in the survival skill. If you... I know I need to reword this text as well. If you already have proficiency in these skills, you may double your proficiency for any checks that use one of them. You choose which at the end of a long rest. At the end of each long rest. What about a more offensive capability instead of defensive utility capability? Hunter's Mark is going to increase the offensive capability quite a bit, and being able to ignore difficult terrain also does that. There's not much defensive stuff here, but rogues are reasonably defensive with high ACs and evasion and uncanny dodge. Do they have anything that lets them capitalize on the environment or overcome environment penalties while sneaking? Something about trapping, detecting traps in the snow. That would... I'm going to alter favorite terrain. I'm leaning towards like favorite terrain for that. Again, this is tracking, not trapping. Just check the wording on something. Yeah, I wanted to get away from the stereotypical rogue. which, you know, you can take that as whichever way you want. Because I don't think there are that many that really do. Where's the wording? Gosh darn it, PDF. Why are you like this? Am I on the wrong? Nope, I am not on the wrong thing. Oh, it's called Natural Explorer. That's why I'm confused. There we go. It's first level ranger feature, but there we go. Avalanche and crevasse detection would be good, although it seems like our character should develop that. They really should. Something like Persistent Hunter where they can overcome exhaustion, force march, and light one's pursuit of prey. I'm just going to copy this. You know what? I'm going to copy this from the player's handbook because the formatting is better when it copies over. And then we can take it from there because some of this stuff is what you're talking about, but where is it? Was it Control-Shift-V? There we go. Please wait while I fix this. Oh, it's going to take so long to fix, but it'll be still quicker than tapping it out. And then we can see if you all agree with my decision. Once you can see what I'm, looking at. Natural Explorer, I can never remember what that does. Gotta look it up every time. That's fair. I mean, I use the revised Ranger, so my players use the revised Ranger like every time someone wants to play a Ranger, so I don't have that much knowledge about it. But as it gives you double proficiency bonus on things to notice, like threats and whatnot in the difficult terrain, I think we're all talking about the same thing, just approaching it different ways. The only thing this doesn't do is obviously difficult. Is give you any bonuses for like exhaustion, but it doesn't slow group travel, so you can force march still. Breaking that up slightly so I can see what I'm doing. Please. You know my whole thing about why reinvent the wheel? Sometimes I really wish I would. Sometimes I really wish I did do that because it would save on doing this, but equally, like, the wording's already been done for me. Why would I try to rehash it? And the only reason I'm not copying this from the SRD... I mean, I'll show you why I didn't copy this from the SRD. That's just easier than trying to explain. So that was the mess that came from the player's handbook, right? This is what happens if I copy things from the SRD, like, most of the time. I'm going to undo it immediately, but see, that's fine. Other times when I copy the SRD, I get one word on a line. Like one of the Ranger things, I had to delete a lot of stuff, but Why would it show me up now? I guess it depends on the thing I'm copying. Anyway. It the SRD formatting is fucked. It is. It really is. Like, sometimes it's fine, as you just saw, but other times it's terrible. There we go. So, I will just call this Natural Explorer. Copy the basic rules on D&D Beyond and avoid a lot of these formatting issues. Oh, that's good to know. You're particularly familiar with one type of natural environment, are adept at traveling and surviving in such regions. Choose one type of favourite terrain. Arctic coast, desert, forests. Cannot use Underdark. That is no bueno. I'll just put on subterranean. When you make an intelligence or wisdom check related to your favourite terrain, your proficiency bonus is doubled. If you're using a skill that you're proficient in. While travelling for an hour or more in your favourite terrain, you gain the following benefits. Difficult terrain doesn't slow your group to travel. Your group can't become lost except by magical means. I think that should be on a different line. Even when you're engaged in another activity while travelling, such as foraging, navigating, or tracking, you remain alert to danger. If you're travelling alone, you can move stealthily at normal pace. When you forage, you find twice as much food as you normally would. While tracking other creatures, you also learn their exact number, their sizes, and how long they pass through the area. You just have to double check to make sure you don't accidentally grab product identity, which ironically is still a problem in SRD. Yeah, I was like, Underdark. Oh god, no. Okay, so just scrolling back up through chat. So that sort of overcomes the environmental penalties while sneaking. Doubling proficiency in wisdom perception checks for avalanches and crevasses matches the suggestion from Unstable Deus. Overcoming exhaustion force marches is sort of replaced by the fact that difficult terrain won't slow group travel. I think that does everything we're talking about. Yeah. Well, I mean, that text was from the PHB, but yeah, Underdark isn't in the SRD for once. The only extant question is, this class feature, when it's a ranger feature, does give you an additional favourite terrain at 6th level and 10th level. Should I include that? Or should I include, like, you get an additional favourite terrain at probably 6th level? That just means you don't know where you are, not preventing you from moving against your will. Yeah, so you can be pushed off course by an avalanche, but you'll know where you are still. Oh yeah, I know you can still force march under Natural Explorer. That's the one that lowers your passive perception, right? I don't really use overland travel rules. I'm gonna have to for the next section of my D&D campaign, because it's gonna be like enemy territory stuff with little food. Is it overland travel? Is it just travel? Of course, that gives me way too many matches to go through quickly. Time to click the next button. Travel pace. There we go. Fast pace, -5 penalty to passive wisdom perception scores. Okay, that doesn't actually mention anything about that, so that's fine. Travel pace table assumes characters travel for 8 hours a day. They can push on beyond that limit at the risk of exhaustion. For each additional hour of travel beyond 8 hours, characters cover the distance shown in the hour count for their pace. Each character must make a Constitution saving throw at the end of the hour. That's a list of things you can do while traveling. Quick check for chat. Technically, it looks like it only lowers perception if you do a fast force march. If you do a normal force march, it's fine. I mean, you still have the exhaustion thing. does also help with environmental concerns. You are correct. You know what? Let's go back to the Fenrirlink book and actually reference that somehow, shall we? Let's type that in. This is a tie-in after all to promote a book that's already out. Sorry, I'm just checking things. Please scroll faster. Yeah, by this reading as well, you could do a slow forced march if you wanted. I was trying to find the list of things that you can do whilst moving, like overland travel, but I just don't know where it is. Did I scroll the wrong way? No, I did not, in fact, scroll the wrong way. See, I've admitted that I don't know everything. It's downhill for me. I'm not going to get to do the show again. Yeah, it's equipment and stuff. That is definitely the wrong way. I mean, the easy answer would be to rename the feature and add maybe some effect of Danger Saints onto it. Danger Sense onto it. Be like, you have advantage against whatever saving throws from environmental hazards. What does a slow force march look like? The only things which spring to mind are prisoner marches and the marching you see in live theatre. It's not everything were records been canned long ago. Hey, that's fair. Well, so the slow travel pace allows you to use stealth whilst you're traveling. So it's kind of like pushing on past your natural stopping point whilst trying to remain hidden in enemy territory. And that's spells. That's two. Why is there no bookmarking in the SRD? These are monsters. I thought the list of actions you did in Overland Travel were in the player's handbook, but I guess they could be in the DMG section. That's an appendix. Because there's a whole thing about foraging and map making and all of that stuff. You know what? I'm just going to keep clicking through the travel options. I do apologize. I feel like, because I want to get this early feature nailed down, because then we can maybe build on it in later features. But equally, it's taking a long time to nail down. Oops, went too far. Traps? Nope. These are magic items. These are monsters. Yep, it is not there. That's annoying. Like maybe trackers awareness, trackers awareness. Yeah, something like that. Second one should say tracker. That's fair. Tracker's knowledge, keyboard, and you are in a fight. Hey, I know the keyboard struggle. Because that also gets around giving them a second favored terrain if they're in their favored terrain and they're just super good against certain things, and then maybe like regardless of the terrain you get this benefit. Because I always just feel having something tied to the favored terrain. I mean, obviously, if you're playing in Fenrilic, there's only really one terrain. I mean, there's subterranean stuff if you're hunting Scarai, and I guess there is the occasional boreal forest and mountain range, but largely it's snow. Do I get props for the word boreal? Anyway. Pretty fair bet than either keyboard usually best me. Okay, let's rename this. I do get props for boreal. Yes! I'm just going to call it Tracker's Awareness for now. Boreal is a good foe. A good word, sorry. I also need to reword that first one as well, don't I? Beginning at 3rd level, particularly familiar with one type of natural environment, yeah, that's fine. You know what? That seems like it should be a rider. So this should be like, additionally. And this is where I could put in the danger sense stuff, I guess. What sailing occurs in Fenrilic? Very little. I don't think there's any rivers. Could be wrong. Travis is the one to ask about that. All I have is the map, which I can never find in the book. 2 very large chasms, though, which might have water at the bottom. If you survive long enough to find out. Have a greater awareness of the natural world than many other people. Ooh, how's this for it? Turbo Gorge has water at the bottom, but it is hella rocky. I mean, yes. How about this for an idea? Have advantage on saving throws against environmental hazards. I could specify dexterity saving throws, but the vast majority will be dex saves anyway. So I think I'm going to leave it vague because of the following. Then use your reaction taken before you roll the saving throw. I guess taken before a creature who can hear you rolls their saving throw. To grant the effect, to give? I think to give the effects of this feature to I need to reword the sentence. I know it's terrible now. Hear you until the start of your next turn. So you can choose to make the saving throw with advantage, or you can yell a word of warning to someone else and they get the advantage instead. I think to that creature works, right? I think it's clear enough that it's referring to the clause. Use your reaction taken before a creature who can hear you rolls their saving throw to give effects of this feature to that creature. Should be a range? Yeah, there should be. 10 feet? That's standard aura range, right? Or 20 feet, because if you're scouting ahead, that's going to be kind of... Yeah, 60 feet. Yeah, I always put the range after that for some reason. So you get that anyway. And then... should I specify dexterity and strength or dexterity saving throws? Because... some people could argue that, like, exhaustion... con saves against exhaustion due to cold... is like an environmental hazard. I think some specificity is needed here. Con saves will come in too? Okay. Con saves are one of those things, it's always weird to me, like how you have an advantage on it. But if chat thinks it's fine, it's fine. Yeah, 120 is the size of most battlefields. So we'll cover most battlefields. So and it can happen. You can specify it doesn't work on them or exclude them. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Well, it's like usually it's like exhaustion or to resist the effects of weather, isn't it? I think I'm going to exclude them. People will try to pull this to make resist natural. Well, that was my thinking. Is there any connection between Dead Man's Rust and Frostlands of Fenrir? Beyond the game line? Not really. I mean, you can make one if you want. So if you don't want that either, exclude quite an entire spell attack. Yeah, this cannot be used to exhaust saving throws against exhaustion. You know what? I'm going to go to the Frostlands book, and I'm going to look at the environmental hazards table on page 9. So we've got Avalanche, that's a dex save and a strength save. Ice Rime, that's a dex check. Thin Ice is a dex save, con save. Fissures being a dex save with a strength check. Geothermal Vents being a dex save. Snow Blindness being a con save. Cold Snap being a con save. And Flash Flood being a check, not a save. Yeah, I think we'll exclude con saves, as strength and dexterity saves are usually like, you save or you don't. Con saves are like a stamina-based thing. Yeah. Stop putting "oh, you fool." You have advantage on strength and dexterity saving throws against environmental hazards. You may use your reaction taken before a creature within 120 feet who can hear you rolls the saving throw to give the effects of this feature. You know what? I'm going to put this as traps as well. Because it's basically the same thing. I feel like I should specify as long as you are not blinded or incapacitated. You might sneak into Portal or an Easter egg or two and you find a development pass. Heck yeah, I'm excited for that. Going back to Unstable Dace's point, I do trust the DM to restrict the use on a case-by-case basis, but I also don't trust players to not rules lawyer their way through it. So as long as you are not blinded or incapacitated, you have advantage on strength and dexterity saving throws against the effects of environmental hazards and traps. You may use your action taken before a creature within 120 feet of you who can hear you rolls their saving throw to give the effects of this feature to that creature until the start of your next turn. pretty happy with how that's turned out. I mean, I've been streaming for an hour and 10 minutes, and I've got 2 features worded, but there we go. That's sometimes how it goes. And then kind of some minor favorite terrain stuff. I think with the thing at the top, with the first paragraph, I don't think second favorite terrain will really help. Annoying, stupid rules lawyering players. I tread the fine line of being a rules lawyer and someone who knows the rules and will correct people. And it's a difficult line to tread, especially when I'm tired. Okay, and then... oh, I still need to reword this. Right. Can discern tracks and even the most trackless places, I guess. Hostile environments. I've got beginning at 3rd level, from 3rd level. When you reach... third level, learn how to place a magical mark upon your quarry. Here's where, although it would surprise me, here's where I discover Hunter's Mark is not in the SRD. It is in the SRD, thankfully. Now I have to limit it. I was thinking once per short rest, so that we're all on the same page. Hunter's Mark. You choose a creature you can see within range and mystically mark it as your quarry. Until the spell ends, you deal an extra 1d6 damage to the target whenever you hit it with a weapon attack, and you have advantage on any wisdom perception or wisdom survival check you make to find it. If the target drops to 0 hit points before the spell ends, you can use a bonus action on a subsequent turn of yours to mark a new creature. You can cast it at high levels, but that simply extends the duration of the spell. Probably somewhere in the under not dark ground. Every time you go through the Shadow Gate, there's like a 1 in 100, 1 in 20 chance that you end up in Fenrilic instead of the top of the Mesa. And no one quite knows why. Yeah, so, once per short rest, you may cast Hunter's Mark. Does it have spell components? It has a verbal component, that's fine. When you strike a target... when you strike the target of Hunter's Mark, I should say. Not to tangent the conversation, but there is a significant difference between knowing the rules thoroughly and being a rules loyalist, which is one can be very useful at the table, whereas the other is a menace. Yeah, the trouble is when I'm tired, I end up as a menace. When I'm not tired, I'm useful to know. No, that's not the right wording. There's an existing example of something akin to what I want to do with the Swashbuckler. Where is... There it is. Okay, so it's just called using your sneak attack. Oops. Additionally, as long as you do not have disadvantage on the on the attack roll, you may use your sneak attack whenever you successfully hit target of your Hunter's Mark spell. Specifying your Hunter's Mark in case there is a ranger in the party and it's not like, hey, I'm going to attack that person instead. As long as you do not have disadvantage on the attack roll, you may use your sneak attack whenever you successfully hit the target of your Hunter's Mark spell, regardless of the other conditions? Oh, all the other rules for sneak attack still apply, maybe? No. Because that seems a bit weird. Just looking, is this campaign building, word building, or what? This is a supplement based, right now, just explaining how I go about making subclasses for Scarred Lands for the community content Illusion Vault site. Eventually, maybe one day I'll write an adventure for it. I don't know. I've always found adventure writing very daunting. Which is why I did it in Scion instead, because you can be super vague. Because it's a system that kind of benefits more from ambiguity, whereas everything has to be very well thought out in D&D OGL games. But if you have any questions whilst lurking, please feel free to ask. I'm not averse to talking to chat. That is the point of the show. I would say which conditions of sneak attack the feature lets you meet. Okay. Hang on. I'm complicating this. I'm overcomplicating this way too much. Additionally, you do not need advantage on the attack roll to use your sneak attack feature. I could just copy the text, admittedly, from the swashbuckler, but there we go. To use your sneak attack feature. Sorry. If the target is marked with your Hunter's Mark. Why did that superscript? What? Please don't. All of the other rules for sneak attacks that apply to you. I think that's clearer. And way easier. Is there anything that prevents Hunter's Mark from multiple casters on the same target? I don't believe so. But that's why I'm specifying your Hunter's Mark, not just generically Hunter's Mark. Yeah, thank you for the resub, Patty Shakes. There was something else. This was a great expansion. Frostlands is a great supplement for Scarred Lands. Other than Scarred Lands, what other TTRPG am I playing? So on this show, I've done Scion and Base Chronicles of Darkness, so just Mortals. This is the 4th season of the show on this channel. The 6th season overall, because I do stuff on my own channel. But I was thinking I might do some Pugmire stuff at some point, Realms of Pugmire stuff at some point for Canis Minor. maybe just do some callings. I had a lot of fun writing some callings for a project. But yes, so I've specified your hunter's mark there, not hunter's mark, to make that clear. And then leaving it as with all the other rules for sneak attack, obviously you can't have disadvantage on the roll. An ally needs to be nearby. Oh, right, yeah. Ally. You do not need advantage on the attack roll or an... Oh god, no. I'm just going to copy the wording because it's a stupid sentence that no one should ever have to write out or memorize. Where is it? It's just... I get why it's worded that way. It's just convoluted. Scroll faster, please, mouse. I need a new mouse. Or an... You do not need advantage in attack roll or another enemy of the target within 5 feet of it. I guess non-incapacitated is the easiest way of putting it. I think that's the easiest way of putting it. Anyway. Well, the thing is, the sneak attack feature specifically states they are not incapacitated, and the game does have a different... There is a difference in D&D between consciousness and being non-incapacitated. As incapacitated is a condition. Who is not incapacitated is the preferred language. That works for me. Another enemy target with 5 feet of it. And who is not incapacitated? I hate typing out the word incapacitated as well. Just hate it so much. Additionally, you do not need advantage on attack roll or another enemy with the target within 5 feet of it and who is not incapacitated. That just sounds weird. I might have to do this off stream. I might have to fix this wording off stream. I'm spending too long on wording. I'm not finishing this rogue today. Unless I, do a rush, which is possible. I think that reads better. A lot of triple negative, but it's 5e syntax problem. It is, isn't it? I don't think there's a clearer way of putting it, because the swashbuckler is just you have to be within 5 feet of it, no other creatures within 5 feet of you, and you don't have disadvantage. I do feel like this is almost pointless at this point, as the other rules for sneak attack being you have to be using a finesse weapon or a ranged weapon. And you don't have disadvantage, I guess. But it allows you to ignore these rules of sneak attack. Well, the trouble is, these rules of sneak attack do require you to be using certain weapons. Finesse or ranged. Actually, as long as you are using a finesse or ranged weapon and do not have disadvantage on the attack roll. I'm going to move this down here just so I've got it in case I need it. Do not have disadvantage on the attack roll. Use your sneak attack feature of target's mark with your hunter's mark. Does that work? I think that works. Thank you for the inspiration, Patty Shakes. Yeah, I'm happy with that. If I start saying Hunter's Mark is considered an adjacent ally, I just know someone out there, if anyone uses this, would be like, well, that means I can use flanking for combat advantage. And I know that's a house rule, or an optional rule that not everyone uses, but someone will do it. Anyway, so that's that. This is what? 9th level. Sneak attack's one of those things that everyone knows the rules to until they have to type it out. Yup. I mean, I know the rules to it, I'm just lazy and don't want to type them out. 9th level, you are adept at covering broken ground swiftly. You may move up to your base walking speed. Nope, that's the wrong wording. The effect's odd. The effects of difficult terrain only apply after you have moved up to your base walking speed. That's wrong. Is that better? I don't like the word moved. The intention here is that the difficult terrain still applies to dashing. So like you can move up to your speed normally, but then after that, the difficult terrain does apply to you. Because just saying outright you ignore difficult terrain is kind of broken. Also, difficult terrain doesn't slow to groups travel up here. Anyway, but this is like short movement. Also, I'm having a quick think about this one up here. I know I've mentioned environmental hazards and traps. Should I also do spells? Or is that going too far? I think that's going too far. Makes sense, adds cool flavor, makes it stand out in a good way. Good. I think the wording is fine. Yeah, I think it's a bit much for 3rd level ability. Spells that have an area effect? Could be an improvement at like X level. 10th level? I was thinking maybe non-instantaneous spells. So, like, plant growth and stuff like that. Evasion is 7th level, yeah. So 6th level wouldn't really make sense. I could do it at 9th, tied in with unhindered movement. That's neat, doesn't nerf fireballs. Yeah, well, evasion's already taken care of fireball, so I could set this to 9th level, because then it does tie in with unhindered movement as well. Oh, too far down. It also means that at 9th level you get something more than just, I can move 30 feet without difficult terrain stopping me. Thinking of extending the feature to others' part. Yeah, true. Hang on. I think plant growth was a terrible example. Where is it? Scroll faster. I really should just control F, because I know what the spell's called. Is plant growth the one I'm thinking of? I'm pretty sure it creates difficult terrain, right? Nope, it's not the one I'm thinking of. Web is the one I'm thinking of. Gosh darn it. I was like, I know there's one that makes you do a saving throw when you enter it. It doesn't. It's a... Yeah, it does. You make a dex save at the start of your turn. Oops, a daisy. I think I'm still mostly happy with spike growth. Yes, I know there was a growth one. Nope, that just gives you... You just take damage from moving across it. There are actually... there are remarkably few non-instantaneous spells that have a saving throw, would you believe? Hypnotic Pattern springs to mind. Because that does have an area of effect. I think Fear is an area of effect as well, right? That has a duration. Yeah, Fear is a cone. But it has a duration. There's a wisdom saving throw, though. No, Spike Growth does... You just take 2d4 damage when you walk across it. A lot of the spells I'm thinking of are actually wisdom saving throws, which is super annoying. I'm just kind of scrolling through the spells to see if this is really a decent rider or a decent kind of upgrade. I mean, the easy solution would be to remove Strength and Dexterity, because then it would apply to Hypnotic Pattern and Fear and Moonbeam and spells like that. Stinking Cloud, Cloud Kill, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's such a small amount of damage, but Entangle, Grease. Yeah, I could say just this feature applies non-instantaneous spell effects, non-instantaneous spells that have an area of effect, and Wisdom saving throws. Yeah, again, then you have the environmental core problem. Uh, Keyboard's winning. This feature applies to Wisdom saving throws and non-instantaneous spells that have an area of effect. I think that works. I mean, you could flavor it with granting someone advantage on the Wisdom saving throw is like you're just grabbing their attention to distract them from the effect of the spell or whatever. I mean, I can BS anything. I have a degree in the humanities, specifically in religion and theology. I can argue pretty much anything given time. But there we go. That's fine. It also gives 9th level something else than just, hey, you can move 30 feet without being slowed down. So this was 13th level? Yeah. Communicate weakness. When you reach 13th level, your mastery of your trade such that you can teach others the basics. When an ally, you know what? When a creature let's say within 30 feet of you. A creature that can hear you. When an creature. No, within 30. I think that works better. When a creature within 30 feet of you that can hear you, or within 30 feet. No, I've got to specify you there because of the rest of the effect. I guess I just have it as a clause. Maybe. That reads better anyway. Moving on. When a creature within 30 feet of you that can hear you, makes a successful attack roll. Use your reaction. Oh, I should probably say at the lowest level. Where is it? At its lowest level. You may use your reaction to oh, I should also specify here against the target of your Hunter's Mark spell. Whoops, nope, that's not what I wanted to do. To grant them the benefits of the spell, which admittedly is only 1d6, but as part of this, if you have not already done so, and if the target fulfills, if the attacker and the target, can you see where I'm going with this? Requirements. You have a great spell you came up with just now. Hit us with it. We're all waiting with bated breath. Attacker may use your sneak attack. Does that work? It's a horrible, like, 4-line sentence. It's called Frost Phoenix. Well, that sounds cool. When a creature within 30 feet of you that can hear you makes a successful attack roll against the target of your hunter's mark, you may use your reaction to grant them the benefits of the spell. As part of this, if you have not already done so, and if the attacker and the target fulfill the requirements for your sneak attack, the attacker may use your sneak attack. Should I say requirements of follow the scent instead? Yeah, I think so. So it ties it back to it. That does sound like it could be dope. I do like familiars. Big fan of the one of the subclasses in Dead Man's Rust because of the familiar stuff. When a creature within 30 feet of you that can hear you makes a successful attack roll against the target of your hunter's mark, it means your reaction to grant them the benefits of the spell. As part of this, if you have not already done so, and if the attacker and the target fulfill the requirements to follow the scent, the attacker may use your sneak attack. Gain the... I don't think it needs specifying, but I'll just clarify it there. The Prodigilist, yeah. Or the Pokemon trainers, we call it in the virtual office. Crunch being game mechanics. Connor. Passagage Plays was saying, if I can build on rules text that's already there, do it. Because that's how you reinforce the narrative of a subclass or something. Which is what I'm trying to demonstrate anyway. I always try to build on existing subclass mechanics rather than create something new, because it like hyper focuses it, but in theory produces a coherent narrative, unlike my speech. I have like 10 minutes. Technically I can overrun, I guess, but I probably shouldn't. It's bad time management. At 17th level. Or awareness of the environment prevents you from being surprised. You may no longer be surprised. Do I clarify what that means? Because I feel like Danger Sense is no longer really applicable because of the tracker's awareness feature. Can stream till like 8 PM Eastern if I want to. You know what? Like after 5 hours, because I've done a 5.5 hour stream before, not on this channel obviously. After 5 hours, my attention goes, and my blood sugar takes a drastic drop. So I don't think I will. I have the greatest admiration for people who do like 24-hour streams, but I'm never going to be able to do that. Although there is an upside, of course, to streaming, to being based in the UK, in that I do get the extra stream time if I need to, but I still try not to run over. It's a professionalism thing. You may not longer surprised. What? You may no longer be surprised and have advantage on initiative rolls. Wait, initiative check, sorry. It's an ability check. Just eat on stream. I do eat on stream occasionally, but I mute my microphone and I cover my webcam, because I personally don't like people watching me eat, and I know some people don't like the sound of eating, and some people don't like watching people eat. 24-hour streamers, like, I think they just step out of the room to eat. Like, they just take breaks. But I get so tired after my usual, like, 4-hour streams. You may no longer be surprised and have advantage on initiative checks. I feel it needs something else to spice it up a smidge. So we've got advantage on saving throws against traps, environmental hazards, and spells by this point. Can't be surprised. Hang on, I'm just going to check something. That one. Why do I have 4 PDFs open? Ooh, I wonder. How about ignoring the effects of lightly obscured stuff? Ooh, hydrate. You know what? I shall. Thank you for reminding me. Specifically, environmental, like, trying to think of non-environmental terrain, non-environmental game effects that would produce a lightly obscured condition. I guess there's things like fog cloud is heavily obscured. Oops. How would I even word this? For being in slash... Just going to try and bend or break the rules. That's what players do. Heavy snow, fog. Yeah, those are environmental conditions. So I was trying to think of non-environmental ones, but the spells that create the obscured condition, they largely just produce natural effects just through magic. Ignore the effects with smoke, which is basically fog. It is. It's just denser fog of lightly obscuring environmental and spell features. Factors? I think factors works better. Does that include dim light? Yeah, that's what that was. I think so. I think it does, because we like being super aware of your environment would give you some like advantages in dim vision, in dim light. You still can't see through with no light. It is also a 17th level feature. If this were a low level feature, I'd be really hesitant, but I think it should still apply to dim light. Because at that point, you're just tracking movement more than anything. The only problem I can think of is that it obviates the Gloomstalker Ranger ability, where things that rely on dark vision can't see you. But again, it's a 17th level feature. And you can still hear things. Yeah. Is this good wording anyway? Lightly obscuring environmental factors. Is that clear enough? Oops, daisy. Clicked on the wrong thing. Yeah, I'm going to specify dim light, but no light is heavily obscured. Well, I mean, you can't see, you are blinded in no light, which is its own thing. So that's fine. Yeah, it would be hyphenated, you're correct. It's modifying the environmental factors. Oops. Hang on. This is a community focus. So, familiar conjure drawback takes 2 spell slots, takes invocation time 10 minutes, can be read earlier because of time, so as long as prepared properly. I will say that find familiar, I believe you can dismiss your familiar and then call it back anyway as an action. To address the thing in chat. Find Demilia. What? Where is it? As an action, you can temporarily dismiss your familiar. It disappears into a pocket dimension where it awaits your summons. As an action, while it is temporarily dismissed, you can cause it to reappear in any unoccupied space within 30 feet of you. That's better. I just couldn't think of the right wording. Travis, thank you. Yeah, something that's lightly obscured. You have disadvantage on attack rolls and perception checks to see it, or attack it, or whatever. I just couldn't think of the right wording. Penalties caused by an area being lightly obscured. Including areas within dim light or spells that... You know what? I don't think the spells say where they lightly obscure it, so there we go. I think that works better. Monster you can make up and can level it with you, bind a monster with you. Is this like a whole subclass thing? Because I mean, there are subclasses already that let you have higher CR creatures as your familiar. And what you're describing is very much the Ranger Companion or Alchemist Homunculus, Artificer Homunculus. If you in non-SRD material, I again have to point that out. Artificer not covered by the SRD. So you might want to look at those classes for examples. Always get that self-promotion in. Again, though, Dead Man's Rust, very good campaign. Adventure. Mega adventure. So much to do. In fact, there's so much to do in it, you could have an entire campaign without actually doing the story. I said it. Why would I say something so brave? Anyway, so, I've technically overrun at this point, so let's just finish up the rogue. So, narrative. When you want something found, not necessarily killed, these are the people you turn to. Usually of a more lawful mindset than the Southern Rogues, trackers know that the community they live in is often the only one they can buy food from or sell their wares to, instead of letting their skills and abilities go to waste. Many rogues on Fenrilic offer their services to travellers or inexperienced hunters and make a living out on the snow. Yes, it is side quest, the campaign. There is so much you can do in it. And you can fight a couple of dragons. It's true. One of them might have a problem with life. So we've got bonus proficiency, survival and perception. If you're already proficient in them, you just get you get expertise in one of them, and you could change that at the end of a long rest. That's just some minor utility to double down on the tracking thing. Geralt of Rivia would love it. Oh. Speaking of Geralt of Rivia, if anyone wants to, I'm playing The Witcher 3 on my stream on my channel after this. And tracking and stuff. Tracker's awareness, you have a greater awareness of the natural world than many other people. So as long as you are not blinded or incapacitated, you have advantage on strength and dexterity saving throws made against the effects of environmental hazards and traps. You may use your reaction taken before a creature within 120 feet can hear you. Rolls their saving throw to give the effects of this feature to that creature until the start of your next turn. At 9th level, you get a slight upgrade to wisdom saving throws and non-instantaneous spells within the area of effect. You won't be seeing much of him though, because I'm playing Gwent. Yay, Gwent. Anyway, and then also the Natural Explorer feat, just again to tie in with the tracking side of things. Because while having this extra functionality on sneak attack is, good for the rogue, it a lot of the other subclasses give you other things to do in combat or with the sneak attack, so I went for utility with the tracking, let's say. But this is a very specific way you can use sneak attack, but against a hunter's mark target. Unhindered movement just prevents difficult terrain from affecting you for a short time. Again, tying in with the tracking theme, being able to cross broken ground. Communicate weakness. Tracking does involve some hunting, and you can share what you know of hunting with others by sharing the follow the scent feature. And then heightened awareness. You may no longer be surprised if advantage on initiative checks and you ignore penalties caused by an area being lightly obscured, including areas within dim light, because that just seems to make sense to me, especially as similar features include. I should probably only read the one from the SRD, if I'm being honest. Where's the thief? So, for example, the thief's 17th level one is you take two turns during the first round of any combat. Because of course it does. 13th level feature, ignore class race level requirements for magic items. Curiously, not alignment requirements. So there we go. So I think that's reasonably well balanced. Maybe a magic item that summons the Frost Phoenix, give it to be easy players can obtain, like a Hawk Gauntlet. Maybe. That's just a figurine of wondrous power at that point. Just with a custom monster that it can summon. Trying to decide if anything here should be removed. Great minds and chat delay. No. This kind of thing, depending on what kind of campaign you're playing, it doesn't necessarily come up all that much. So it's very situational. So you might not get much benefit out of it, but the core of the feature is this anyway. Someone to know the Nordic dragon before they can breathe fire. Isn't that a worm? Anyway. I think I'm good. So something for awareness, something for sneak attack, bonus proficiencies, that's kind of vaguely standard rogue template. I'm still not sure about Natural Explorer, if I'm being honest. But again, it doesn't come up that often, so it's highly dependent on the campaign. They breathe cold instead. I'm happy with that. I'm happy enough with it right now anyway. Obviously, if it gets to the solution, want people leave feedback like, this is broken, change it. I'd be like, okay, please don't hate me. So next time, so this is bi-weekly. Hopefully I will be well enough and okay to stream on the 16th, where we'll be tackling a Sorcerer subclass for the Wilderness Origin. Frost Phoenix could be a quest. You kill a giant Frost Phoenix, have to fight, kill it, maybe take it out on the next after a certain time. That would make sense. And killing a Rack Dragon is always fun. I imagine having only ever read the stat block for a Rack Dragon. Yeah, so next week's subclasses, next stream subclass is the Sorcerer. So as ever, if you want to know about project updates, Kickstarters, that kind of thing, the Monday meeting notes are the place to go. Right now, I think Ninebot's dropped the link a few times, but there is an Indiegogo campaign. That's all of the wrong buttons. An Indiegogo campaign happening for Victorian era Mage, the Ascension 20th anniversary of more important. So importantly, Indiegogo takes the money when you pledge, not when the campaign ends. So please be aware of that. Although the backer kit will still be available if you want to kind of do add-ons later. If you are more interested in Scarred Land stuff, because that is, after all, what we're doing at the minute, Yeah, I was just going to mention the Vigil Watch Advanced PDF on Wednesday as an exploration of 6 places on Gelsbad. So that should be cool. Also, I did notice the Vigil Watch Kelder Mountains thing in the project timeline as a new project. So that's pretty hype. Maybe we'll... This is a reference to the Discord server, but maybe we'll find out more about Borok Torn at some point. Like, where it actually is. Was it Borok Torn? A ruined city. We couldn't figure out where it was anyway. And a Werewolf the Apocalypse 20th Anniversary Apocalyptic Record supplement being 5 overarching stories inspired / based on the auspices of the moon. Also, please note that this Wednesday is the GM's Day sale on DriveThru RPG, where most, I think, if not all DriveThru PDFs will have some kind of discount. Everything that is older than 2 months will have a discount, by the looks of it. And this Wednesday is also the penultimate episode of Tales of the Aeon Society, the audio adventure being produced in the run-up to Trinity Aeon. It's the Borok Torn and Dear Drendal stretch from Deathman's Rust. We'll get a concrete location. Some publishers opt out. That's fair. To quote, most of our PDF catalogue will be on sale from 61 days to 2 years old, 10% off, over 2 years old, 40% off. So if you've got any PDFs you've been waiting to pick up from Onyx Path, now's your chance, maybe. I think that's... I can't think of anything else. That's a very rushed recap. I went into more detail at the start of the stream. So if you did miss the start of the stream and want to watch that more in detail recap, and you are not currently subscribed to the channel, unfortunately you will have to wait a week. There is a 7-day exclusivity period for videos on demand if you are not, for subscribers. So if you're not subscribed, you will have to wait a week to watch it on the Twitch channel or my own channel on YouTube, Comrade Bubbles. I try to pull these up a week after recording them, but sometimes that's it's slightly more than a week, but it's mostly okay. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you can link it to your Twitch Prime account to create a Prime Gaming account. That's a lot of primes. 3 actually a prime number, so that's quite kind of cool. And if you have a Prime Gaming account, you get 1 free subscription a month, which you can use on the channel. It works out for Onyx Path identical to a Tier 1 subscription. It works out as you identical to a Tier 1 subscription, except it's free, air quotes, because you're still paying for Amazon Prime. But you get all of the emotes, you get all of the exclusivity stuff, and Onyx Path get all of the money. It is what it is. I will be in chat for a couple of minutes as the post-roll cycles, so you can see the schedule for the rest of the week. If you have any questions about Onyx Path, Scardlands, whatever, I will then move over to my Twitch channel in about half an hour's time. Not tabletop stuff, video game stuff. If you have any questions / want to follow me over there for whatever reason, it is Comrade Bubbles. And if you ever want to reach out on Twitter, it's also Comrade Bubbles. There's a theme. I'm always happy to talk role-playing stuff and answer any questions that I feel I can answer. If I can't answer a question, I 9 times out of 10 know somewhere you can go to look to find someone who can, which is good. Of course, that 1 time out of 10 is just really awkward, but there we go. If you've liked the show, obviously feedback is always welcome, whether YouTube comment or Twitch comment or tweet or whatever. But as I say, I'll be back in 2 weeks for more of this. I've got 2 more subclasses, 2 player races or ancestries, and I'm going to think of at least another spell. I might do a magic item or 2. I really don't know about that. I could do some feats, though. I guess this is just turning into a how to write anything for the OGL with a Scardlands focus. Anyway, that's a problem for the future. Again, the more content I put in this supplement, the more it's going to cost, so please stop me if you are concerned about that, / thinking you'll pick it up. Anyway, stick around for the post-roll. There's some sweet graphics for the rest of the schedule, and I will see you around, hopefully, next time. Stay safe, stay healthy, and as ever, stay wholesome.